All right, so today we are going to see what we already know about post-impressionism. Again, we're going to activate our prior knowledge to think about what we already know about a topic so we can connect new information when we are reading or looking at a piece of artwork. I'm going to place post-impressionism at the top of my paper. And without talking, I'm going to write something I already know about post-impressionism. So, I know that post-impressionism is an art movement, so I'm going to silently write art movement under post-impressionism. I also know that Vincent van Gogh, who is one of my favorite artists, is an art artist from that movement. So I'm also going to write that next on my list. Now we're going to see what your prior knowledge is about post-impressionism. I'd like you to work with a partner, but it's just us, so it's just you and I. We're going to think about all of our prior knowledge about post-impressionism. Record anything you can think of on your paper. Remember, you don't need to worry about getting anything wrong. It's just about taking risks and thinking about anything and everything that may come to your mind when you think about post-impressionism. Our goal is to try to figure out everything we might know about the topic so that when we view our artwork, we can make great connections. So go ahead and jot down a couple things. Alright, so let's come back together. Now that you've had the opportunity, let's discuss and take a couple minutes of what you have came up with. So what are some things that you think of when you think of post-impressionism?
A couple things that I wrote down is that it's not like a real setting, like not really realistic.
Which is correct.
It's a little fuzzy looking, and it's very colorful.
Yeah, so a lot of things from post-impressionism time are really colorful. They're not realistic. Just to give you a quick insight in what post-impressionism is about. So it's an era from 1880 to 1914. It includes a wide range of styles that relate to the Impressionism movement, so it was the movement right before post-impressionism. An era in which traditional methods were not used. Symbolism is more important than trying to be realistic. And artwork from this movement rely more on color and shape to describe the world around them. It's definitely not realistic, and the interpretations are all about more emotion than anything else. So now that we have a little bit of prior knowledge to post-impressionism, let's take a look at a painting from this time, which is The Starry Night by Vincent van Gogh. So there are a variety of strategies that people use when they read. When viewing a work of art, we can use similar strategies that you may use when you are reading. One strategy readers use is questioning. To help us better understand the Starry Night, we can ask a lot of different questions. And today we are going to stick to the basics about asking who, what, where, when, how, and why questions. So follow along with your handout that's in front of you. While looking at the Starry Night, I'm going to take a moment and we're just going to go through these questions while we're looking at it. For example, if one of the questions is, what do I see in the painting? I'm only going to describe what I actually see in the image. So I may see a lot of movement in the sky with the stars. I see a variety of different colors. I see a night sky. So go ahead and take a moment to answer what your questions on the handout. Okay, so now that you've had the time to answer your questions, let's discuss this together. So, number one, what do you see in this artwork?
I wrote down that there's a lot going on and that there's a town nearby, and it's a nighttime setting with the stars in the sky and the moon.
Number two, what are some things that catch your eye first?
I really like the structure and the format of the sky.
So the overall layout and the composition?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's great. So where do you think the scene is?
It looks like it's a small village. By the mountains, maybe, too? Mm-hmm. Hills.
Why do you think this artist made this piece of artwork?
To express the nighttime setup with the stars and the moon, and maybe some more of like a landscape setting that maybe he likes.
Mm-hmm. When do you think this artwork was made?
Maybe the 1800s.
And that's a great guess, since we already know our post-impressionism time period. How do you think this artist made this artwork?
It looks like watercolors.
Watercolor? Now, what makes you think that? Because of all of the...
Yeah, the way the sky is kind of blended together, it looks like they could have used watercolors.
So he actually used oil paints, which oil paint always gives out a lot of vibrant color versus watercolor sometimes dims colors down, or they water it out literally. But oil is really vibrant typically, and a lot of artists from this time period always used oil paints. How does the artist use elements and principles of art?
The texture of the lines and the colors in the sky, the textures in the sky, the space with the tree in the foreground and the moon in the background, and the stars in the background.
That's great. Who do you see in this artwork, if there's anybody?
Just the community, the village,
Yeah.
home.
Now, you
really.
may not even, you don't really see a person, but you can
Yeah.
sense that there's a community and a village and a home. Yep, that's really awesome. So what is happening in this artwork?
There's a brightly colored painted moon overlooking the small village with the tree in the front.
Where do you think the scene of the artwork takes place?
A small village, town in the probably countryside, maybe.
That is a great indication because of all the mountains and the way the village looks. It's kind of small. It doesn't look like it's a huge popular town. Why do you like or dislike this artwork?
I really like this style of artwork. I like the color. I like how the texture pops out. A really good variety of blues, and it's really eye-catching to me.
It is very eye-catching. What do you think makes this a work of art?
I actually love the color blue, so to me, that's what makes it like special to me, that I like it.
Yeah. And while viewing it, there's a lot going on, and there's definitely an overall calming or maybe kind of like questioning feeling going on. And an artist's intent is always to make you feel something whenever you look at some piece of artwork.
Yeah, it's a lot of texture, a lot going on, and I like it.
How do you think this artist made this artwork?
I think that it looks like he was like looking out a window, or maybe sitting next to the tree and painting what he saw down below and above.
And that's correct, because he actually made the Starry Night from his window at the insane asylum. After he cut off his ear, he went to the insane asylum and painted this from his window.
Oh.
So while viewing the Starry Night, there are several components that make this painting so enticing. Before diving into this painting more, there are several keywords that we have to understand. We have to figure out, which we already know, the art movement, which is post-impressionism. And understanding this really gives us an insight to a motive and a time. So some 4 keywords that we're going to use to help us better understand the Starry Night are color, foreground, background, middle ground. Using your handout, I want you to give examples of how Van Gogh uses these things under each little section. give about 3 examples for each one of how he used color, how he used the foreground area, how he used his background area, and how he used the middle ground era. So now that you've had the opportunity to work on the handout, I'm going to give you an example of the first one. So how does he use color? He uses a variety of tones and shades just to help set a mood. What did you get for color?
I just wrote that there's a lot of dark to light contrast and movement with the blues and the yellows.
That's awesome.